I don't know if you guys have ever gone trick-or-treating, but you know there is that house that you got to think back to childhood when some of these houses were not inviting, some of these people were not inviting, and you didn't want to knock on their door, and you didn't knock on their door, right? As much as you wanted some candy, you were not knocking. Now, Halloween was a wholesome thing back in the day. Even our Catholic church did it, and we had a good Catholic church back when I was growing up in St. Louis. Now, you know, Halloween's going through maybe a naughty nurse phase, a horror movie phase. I don't know. It's changed a little bit. But we're going to talk about one of those houses that you weren't going to go to, because we all know, we've all passed through and seen that house. So you're like, what are they hiding? What's going on in there? We're going to talk about a case where the cops were given a tip that something's going on in that house, right? And the problem with the house in the case we're talking about is that it's covered. They put a large fence around the house, and then they got this metal gate that like almost opens and then it closes to let the car in and out. You cannot see in and out of this house. And we're talking about Fernandez v. State. And Fernandez is being watched by the cops because of these tips. So he uses his clicker to get into his house, and the metal gate that makes it so you can't see in this place slides open, and he drives his car in. And guess what happens? The cops radio each other, hey, let's get into this place. And they walk in while the gate is open, and they drive their cars into the driveway while his gate is open. Now, at this point, they confront Fernandez and say, hey, we've had some tips. We think there's some stuff in your house, and we want to search your house. We want consent. Now, I've got 100 videos on what you should do at this point, which is tell them no, go get the warrant, because their job is to get a warrant. But anyway, Fernandez doesn't sign the paperwork, but he opens the door and says, come on in. And they find 144 marijuana plants that he shouldn't have been growing, and he gets a felony charge, and he appeals. His attorney files the motion that should have been filed, which is a motion to suppress the entire thing, because the cops had no right to enter this place, no right whatsoever. And the trial court said, no, I think it was okay because it was a driveway and it was normal entry. And, you know, we're allowed to welcome people in a driveway and they walked up the walkway. But but he's thinking rightfully so. Yeah, but they only did this by sneaking in the gate when I opened the gate so that I could drive in. Anyway, fortunately, folks, the court held that these cops were trespassing. I mean, honest to goodness, trespassing. And the difference between Fernandez's house and my house is I don't have, just for those of you that don't know, I don't have a metal gate. I don't have anything around it. You can literally walk up to my front door. You can't do that with Fernandez. So the court said that he was not welcoming anybody. There was no public access to his home. These cops were trespassing. Now the question becomes, all right, you've got cops trespassing, but Fernandez still let these guys in to search. And the appellate court said, nope, that is tainted. His permission, opening the door and say, come on in, that is tainted by the fact that these cops shouldn't have been there. They were trespassing. They were not authorized to be on this property. And this whole darn thing gets kicked out. So I've had cases like this where the cops are trespassing, folks. They cannot do that. And anything they say to you and anything that goes on after that trespassing event, that is probably going to be thrown out. So Fernandez's drug charge, felony drug charges, all got thrown out because the cops had no right to be there. Now, you may say, well, they were investigating something. Well, they had a tip. That is not an investigation. You don't get to go on private property just because you get some tip. You can go get a search warrant. If you can convince a judge to sign off on that, how many of you have watched these crime docs? And they go and they get the judge to sign off so that they could go on the property. But they're not just wandering around on the property. You will not see that. That's illegal. You don't want to screw up a murder case. They screwed up this drug case. They shouldn't have been on his property. It's a good decision. And there's my update for today.